Hey everybody, it's Mike with Seeds and Arrows Frontier. We're out here at the bee yard and just checking on them. We're starting to get them prepared for winter. We're now in October, it's Kentucky, so we're getting down to, we've had a couple of nights that have gotten down into the 30s, but they're starting to get active. We've hit them with oxalic acid and they're moving along. This hive is queenless, so I'm actually going to be at nighttime doing a move over to this hive. This hive has a queen. She has like probably about 2-3 frames of bees, and so I'm going to be moving that little bit of bees. They're probably about half a frame or 1 frame of bees over here. So I'm going to be moving them over here. But on my stronger hives, I have these hives down here, and they had several frames of capped honey that I went ahead and took for the season, for fall. Obviously you can see a lot of the goldenrod. There's still some flowers. They're still bringing in a little bit of nectar, a little bit of pollen. However, most of the fall flow is pretty much done. I've heard people talking about, like, I usually just leave the fall honey for the bees. However, a lot of that fall honey has different plant nectars and pollens in it that you're leaving out of your diet, and the reason why I do bees in the first place is because of my allergies. So a lot of the fall allergies are the ragweed, the goldenrod. They got a little bit of astrus and other flowers that they go after, but that's the main reason why I do bees. So everybody questions, like, no, you should really leave the fall honey for the bees for them to get through the winter, which I would rather take the honey. It's more valuable to me, and just feed them back 2-to-1 sugar water, and then have some of the Hive Alive fondant cake or whatever that I can give them as well. So, and that seems to be working. Then I'll also do a sugar board on top, which I'll be doing another video on, but I got these screens or whatever. You put a little bit of water, mix them with the sugar, and it turns basically into rock candy, and you put that on top of the hives, and it does a couple of things for them, which I'll get into another video. But my main thing right now is, if you're not getting at least some fall honey, now I didn't completely rob them out. I only took like 2 or 3 frames from each of the hives, and some of my bigger hives, they still got like their third deep box on there, which they're still bringing in a little bit of nectar. And what I'll actually do with that is not extract that, but I'll take some of those frames and give them to some of the weaker colonies, and then I'll pull out some of the frames that they have down below that don't have a lot of resources in them, and try to switch them out. So there is a method to my madness. A lot of people do things differently, and that's a great thing about doing beekeeping. Everybody can do their own thing and do it differently. But the one thing is to really know your hives. And I know a lot of people are talking about doing the treatments for mites. I not had very much experience, except for the fact the couple of times that I did not do treatments, I lost my hives, and so that's really encouraged me to, one way or another, do treatments. Now, I've used oxalic acid. I've tried to use the Formic Pro. I've heard of other people using some of the mite strips and everything like that, but I've had really positive results with the oxalic acid, and it seems to do a very high mite count, because the vapor goes through the whole hive and coats the bees, and then that gets on them, and of course the crystals basically cut into the mites. It doesn't really harm the bees as much as what it does. Now, I had one of the previous videos that I did for packaging, or how to install a package. Becky, her hives, she lost one of her hives already to mites, and she tried to do the oxalic acid and sugar water drizzled it over them. That in itself did not work for her, so I don't know if she didn't apply it right or whatever. But I will say this: we came in, did an inspection, and we were seeing like mites galore on her bees. And she lost basically one of her hives, absconded because of the mites. The other one was going downhill really quick. I told her like she needs to hit them with the oxalic acid, every 4 days. And she did that, and her bees started rebounding back. And I'm hoping that they'll at least make it through the winter. I'll do a video on that if they do. But the oxalic acid, just seems to be the quickest thing. Some of these mite strips or whatever, the bees got to cross by them in order for the stuff to get on the mites. Otherwise, if the bees don't cross by them, then it doesn't work. So you want to be able to obviously treat for mites. Everybody, some people do try to do the natural way of beekeeping, which is like they say, oh well, they don't have these treatments out in the wild, and I'll give you that. But the problem is, how do they combat the treatments? They swarm. Well, when you have your hives that are this, and you're wanting to get a honey crop, you get one of these hives to naturally swarm, you just lost about half of your workforce, or at least 2/3 of your workforce, to where you're not going to get a honey crop. So our main thing is to keep the bees in the hive. You do that by giving them a well-established place to live, and to where they can actually, flourish inside the hive. So just keep those things in mind if you're getting into beekeeping. Everybody has their different way of doing things. The natural approach, some people say, well, let the stronger colony survive. If you're doing that, you're throwing your money away. Other than the drizzle oxalic acid, I mean, Becky had 2 hives, and she would have lost both of them. Now she at least has a fighting chance to actually save one of her hives. She lost one, but there is a right by her house is a natural hive in a tree, and of course they're flourishing. If they're going to naturally swarm, obviously their honey crop is going to be down. So if you're planning on taking honey away from the bees, then you need to be thinking about other things that are not natural, or you're basically just raising bees to have them pollinate. Because don't be expecting a large amount of honey coming from your bees if they're going to be swarming on you. And my brother, he's had a couple of hives. He's actually done the treatments. And I do apologize for the wind. Trying to get out of it, but he's had a couple of hives that have swarmed on him, and his honey crop went way down in those hives. And so then you basically have the honey that the other bees brought in before the hive swarmed. The nurse bees and everything are not of age to go out and forage. So then you have your queen that basically is hatching out. It takes her about a month. So all that honey that they had in the hive before they swarmed is all depleted down because the bees eat it. And then you're basically left with, them rebuilding through the summertime, if they make it through the summer, with the dearth into the fall, to where now they're having to pull that honey from the fall to make it through the winter. So in the wild, yes, you're correct. Anybody that's arguing that the natural way of beekeeping, it makes sense in the wild because they don't have somebody else harvesting their honey. So That's what everybody seems to forget when you have bees in the wild that naturally are doing their thing. They can do that because, you know, they have just enough honey for them, and that's it, you know. So the natural way of doing things. But if you're going to care for bees, these mites are a real pest, and you got to basically take care of them to be able to have a good honey crop. So oxalic acid, it's already in our food. It's already in a lot of your vegetables, your fruits and vegetables. It naturally grows in the fruits and vegetables. So you're just doing that at a higher concentration. But anyways, thanks for watching. Stay safe, make each day count, and God bless. And good luck with getting bees through the winter if you got bees.